Hey guys, Zen here, and today we're jumping in and rounding up all of the latest news from around the community in Rainbow Six Siege. So guys, today's video is going to be just a bit more interesting because we're also going to speak about the biggest leak to date for the highly anticipated Rainbow Six Quarantine. If you haven't kept up with the latest leaks and announcements and everything else leading up to year 5, then this is the video for you. But also, of course, I have some thoughts, and so let's get it started. Let's go! Firstly, guys, I want to give a shout to Moot for sponsoring our video. Moot is a great tool if you're looking to link up with other gamers because they have an incredible LFG feature built right into the app. After you download the app, simply head over to the LFG tab. You can fill out exactly what you're looking for in teammates and find people to play Rainbow Six Siege with. But you can also make a post yourself and put together a squad for ranked. Now, if you'd like to explore the community, check out the gaming lounges for Rainbow Six Siege, as well as many other AAA titles. And of course, you'll find fan art, memes, and videos that relate. So guys, you can download Moot on both iOS and Android completely for free, and it's also available on PC, so whichever platform suits you. There's giveaways to enter for high-end gaming gear just for interacting with the community, and so guys, click the top link in the description and download Moot today to learn more. But this video officially begins with the latest leak for Rainbow Six Quarantine. So a few documents appeared on the internet, and it looks like we get a first glimpse at what will be featured in Quarantine, as well as its core gameplay. First, we can begin with this. It shows the recipe of Quarantine, which is co-op, replayability, and tension. Now, from the early first trailer of the game, tension was definitely felt throughout, and with tension usually comes difficulty. Given how much blood both Siege and Quarantine share, I would assume Quarantine is going to be a very difficult game at its core, because as far as multiplayer shooters in its class, Siege is one of the most challenging that has ever existed, and it makes me wonder if Quarantine will feature a mechanic as relentless as one-shot headshot. We also see here the loadouts, and to no real surprise, they're really all from Rainbow Six Siege. Of course, by now, we're all aware that yes, Quarantine will feature operators from Siege, and in the initial showing, it featured Ella and more, but now we can see that, at least from a weapon standpoint, there's a lot of crossover. Just to name a few, we see the MX4 Storm, the Scorpion, the GIGN Shotgun, and many, many more that we're accustomed to today. Now, of course, since this hit the web, there's been a lot of community feedback, most of which saying that Quarantine might be light on new content, and maybe to some degree that is true. Again, these are just leaks, but Siege is played with mostly real-life weapons, and so it's tough to really come up with all new weapons when most of the bases have been covered. This news actually excites me because ultimately this means when the game does launch, the arsenal of weapons available out of the gate should be huge and also somewhat familiar. And so from launch, we could be looking at a lot of content. Honestly guys, that's what's most exciting to me in general. Siege launched pretty bare bones back in 2015, and so hopefully this means Ubisoft has learned from that experience and Quarantine launches with a much more substantial offering. We also see that characters will apparently have progression, level 1 through 10, and additionally there's text for a region quest detailed for the NYC region here. So there could be some RPG elements involved as well. Now in a highly replayable game like this, I could imagine being rewarded with additional gadgets or attachments as you level your character up, or obviously new abilities that come with higher tiers. I don't know, out of all of this, these blocks have me the most intrigued and excited because this is effectively investment, and it's how games like Destiny get you hooked, and so Ubisoft could be injecting some of that into this new co-op shooter here. Moving on, we can take a look at some of the maps shown off. From left to right, we've got Play Go, NYC, Liberty Island, Police Precinct, Monolith Hotel, SFO, Mission District, Casino, Foundation Space, TRC, Hospital, Downtown, and one that's a little difficult to spell out. But on these maps, it looks like we'll be playing the missions Sabotage, Disruption, Escort, and Hunt. And we'll have secondary missions of Collect, probably hunting for collectibles throughout the mission, Scan, maybe some kind of intel mechanic, and Defend, so most likely a bunker down and guard the post style of mission. Then there's Quarantine Rescue, which looks like what we saw in the trailer with Ella and Vigil coming in and saving a fallen operator within Quarantine. And so all in all, it looks like this will be a fully featured co-op experience with multiple layers of gameplay and missions, both primary and secondary. Now we also get a look at the operators, and top to bottom, absolutely no new faces. We see 21 operators. There's no real common denominator, but everyone from Gridlock to Alibi seems to be involved, and surprisingly enough, even Jackal has a place here, which he didn't in Outbreak. There are 3 categories of Assault, Recon, and Support, and yes, Recruit is back, and so no worries there. Now let's talk about the elephant elephant in the room. No new operators. First of all, this is a leak and nothing is confirmed, so of course there is that. But secondly, if the progression mechanics are involved, it takes these 21 operators and builds potentially 10 levels onto them, which could mean new abilities or upgrades to what they already have. For instance, maybe Gridlock could turn her tracks incendiary to fight off the Horde at a certain level. This is a co-op game, unlike its PvP counterparts, so those kinds of changes are possible. So the last look is at the enemies, which at least some look new, but some you'll definitely recognize from Outbreak. The Smasher, the Apex, and most of the Tier 1 enemies look familiar, and the Nerve Cluster, Elites, and Transmission Core seem to be new, at least from my perspective. There's no way to guess what these all do or how they'll perform in-game, but I will say that they're at least varied, and you can bet there will be a lot of them on screen and all at once, and of course it'll be your job, along with 2 other buddies, to deal with them all. Guys, all in all, Quarantine looks ambitious. It's really the only word that instantly comes to mind. Co-op games have always been kind of pick up and play, easy to jump in and out, and I do see that here, but adding a progression and leveling system at its core means more investment and more time needed to really experience it all, and that's what I'm incredibly interested in looking through this. The Siege crossover with operators and weapons has been a point of controversy since the announcement. Like, people would just rather all new or mostly new, but if at launch we get all of what we're seeing here, then you can expect a content-heavy first drop, which is great, where most games launch somewhat underwhelming, as you know. For me, being real, yeah, I want to see more. I'd love to get the perfect counterpart to Rainbow Six Siege when I just don't feel like sweating it out in ranked. Tension is what's really important for me personally, because again, it means that you will definitely feel the pressure when things get turned up, and I think a co-op game's worst enemy is when things are just too easy and us brilliant gamers sleep through your game. I think it's Siege's difficulty and high skill ceiling that make it something special, and I really don't want Ubisoft to be afraid to express that in Quarantine. But let me know your thoughts of our early concept look here. Is Quarantine shaping up to be a game worth pre-ordering, or are you just frustrated at the reused assets? Let us know down below. Next up, we have a brand new trailer for the Six Invitational, the Super Bowl of Rainbow Six Siege. It's almost time, ladies and gentlemen, for the 2 best teams in the world to fight it out for one of the highest purses in all of esports, and of course the title of World Champion. But more importantly, it's the celebration of Siege and a gathering of the community. Now, I will be in attendance, and if you'd like to meet me, go over to my Twitter and click the follow button with notifications, because I will be connecting with you guys over there. And yes, shameless plug. But this trailer is short, sweet, narrated by Harry, and really just highlights the event. So guys, it's important to remember that this year is somewhat of a coming out party for the devs over at Team Rainbow. The core development team has restructured, and some key roles have been shifted that will have a massive impact on the direction and ultimately the future of Siege. What's detailed for year 5 is going to set the stage for year 6 and beyond, and so my fingers are crossed that they've listened and are totally tuned into the community and what needs to be done. Now, the Six Invitational is taking place on February 7th at the earliest through the 16th. It'll be at the Place Bell in Montreal, Canada, such a beautiful city, and you'll even be able to grab up one of Harry's hoodies that he's wearing in the latest CGI. As a final fun fact, if you've ever wanted to live out your Siege fantasy in real life, you finally can, because some of the voice actors will be present and are actually doing a meet and greet. You'll be able to meet Hibana, Ash, Mozzie, and more during the slot, and this is a big one for me, although unfortunately, no Kaid sadly. In general, this Invitational is just going to be lit. Like, I'm looking forward to it big time, and hopefully I'll get to see some of you guys there, and we can do the selfie thing. Finally, we can take a quick glance at some of the top community concerns and issues, and it looks like Ubisoft has taken a hard stance on cheaters in the game. Now, basically since the start of Operation Shifting Tides, you've probably noticed a long list of names constantly scrolling on the right side of your screen of players being banned by BattlEye. Through Ember Rise, cheating once again became a big issue, and it slowly and steadily started getting much better, particularly on console. But with Shifting Tides, Ubisoft really nipped it in the bud and has since launched a full-on lawsuit against some of the bigger companies doing this stuff. These companies would provide everything from increased weapon damage to aim lock and wall tracking, and so as a result, Ubisoft have stepped in and put the legal action in motion. It's really unfortunate that initially they announced that legal action would be a like potential if things got out of hand, like it was a last resort. It wasn't really something actively going on, but now it definitely is, and it can only really make the game healthier. Now lastly, they detail a few fixes coming to barricade debris, which is still on track for Year 5 Season 1, and should ultimately make the game more comfortable to play, because as we know, it can be very frustrating to melee a barricade and the wood doesn't fall, and even still, it can lead to being taken out, so I'm really looking forward to that update. But okay guys, that's the video. The latest news from around the community, a bit about quarantine, and everything leading up to the big reveal of Year 5. Of course, now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Rainbow Six Quarantine, the new co-op Siege experience, and any other tidbits from within the video? If you did enjoy, guys, drop a like and subscribe with notifications if you're new. With that being said, it's been Zen. Thanks for watching. I'm out.